It won't just be the Atlanta Braves making moves over the next couple of months. The summer brings the NBA offseason, and we've talked about it over the last several weeks. It's going to be a huge one for the Hawks. They have the number 1 overall pick. They're expected to trade one of their star guards. And Bleacher Report recently came up with a trade hypothetical, a 3-team trade that's kind of the Atlanta Hawks rebuilding, which is not what Hawks fans want to imagine, but this is a deal. This is a deal where even that they don't own their own first-round picks, it's kind of good enough because Trae Young getting 4 first-round picks, which is what he gets from the Nuggets and Magic in this deal. Cole Anthony, who's a solid point guard. He's obviously not Trae Young, but a pretty good deal. And they got Anthony Black as well, who was a first-round pick last year. That's essentially 5 first-round picks and a pretty solid starting caliber point guard that's still pretty young. And Cole Anthony, for Trae Young and Bogdan Bogdanovic, that's not too shabby in my opinion.
Yeah, so it breaks down to, like you said, the Hawks, Nuggets, and Magic in this 3-team trade, and the Hawks give up Bogdan and Trae, and they get 4 first-round picks and a swap, Cole Anthony and Anthony Black, who is 1 year removed from being a first-round pick. And then you essentially are going to have DeJounte Murray, who is just entering his first year of that extension he signed last offseason. Jalen Johnson, who's extension eligible, that everybody in Atlanta expects to be extended. And then your number 1 overall pick, along with that, war chest of other first-round picks. Now you have some semblance of flexibility, whether it's, building through the draft or offering up those first-round picks in a win-now kind of move. You just have options at that point. And I don't even think it's, rebuilding. Bleacher Report described it as retooling. I gave more thoughts on the site sportstalkatl.com. Go check it out. And a team of Jalen Johnson, DeJounte Murray, and a first overall pick is a play-in team. I mean, right then and there, you can make the play-in and potentially go into the playoffs. And it just depends what you kind of do supplementary-wise to build around him. And those 3 guys, I truly do think that. So I wouldn't even call it rebuilding. I would just kind of saying you're kind of pushing the can down the road and extending your runway, so to speak, where DeJounte Murray's under contract for 4 more years additionally. And Jalen Johnson's obviously a long-term piece. See what you can do with those first-round picks. I don't hate it. I don't love it. But it's one of the better ones I've seen in terms of people just drumming up random trade hypotheticals because they can be really bad. We'll talk about Bill Simmons after this, and his is atrocious compared to this one.
I mean, I would hate it if the Hawks tried to remain competitive. I would immediately go to the Spurs with DeJounte Murray and say, give us at least next year's first-round pick back and something else, whether it be a young piece or one of those swaps, or do whatever you can. Take sunk cost, whatever. If it is a sunk cost, if you can get both your first-round picks, that's fantastic. I'd immediately go to them, try to really load up the war chest, get whatever you can for DeAndre Hunter. If it's a late first-round pick from a competitive team, get whatever you can get from Clint Capella. Completely retool this team around Jalen Johnson, the number 1 overall pick, and all of these draft picks. And now we got something cooking, especially if you can get your first-round pick because you get a nice little tank in. You're in the draft lottery. You have good odds of getting a top 5 pick in next year's draft, which is a loaded draft class, unlike this year's draft class. Now, we are cooking. Now we are cooking. That is a rebuild that I am all of a sudden excited about, but you got to go back to the Spurs and beg for your pick on your hands and knees. And please, Greg, Mr. Popovich, please, you're the greatest of all time. Please, give me that pick back.
It's really the only path forward in terms of a rebuild for the Hawks. There is no term rebuild or
without
plan,
your pick,
without getting your picks back from the Spurs. And quite frankly, that seems pretty close to an impossibility at this point. Now reports came out that they were not interested in Trae Young. So let's just
for DeJounte.
Let's just talk about DeJounte Murray. And obviously I know Pop and DeJounte Murray have a close relationship. It may have had its up and downs, but that's just, the nature of the beast that is the NBA. With that being said, what are you going to do? You're going to go back, tuck tail. Listen, I know you are. Let's speak in reality. Landry Fields is going to go tuck tail back to Popovich and ask for first round picks.
So it's not like it's not like his trade. It's not his.
I guess that's fair. That's fair PR also, to be like, I didn't make this trade. It was a bad trade. I wouldn't have agreed with it. But now you're in spite of your boss, who is going to look like a fool. And
Yeah,
that's
he's
just
gonna look
not
like a
going
fool
to
to
happen.
us, but he's not going to look like a fool to the national media because the national media doesn't pay attention to the Hawks and they have no idea what really
They'll say Landry Fields made this trade.
Yeah, they have no idea. They still don't know. They were shocked. They'll probably be shocked that it was their own first round pick coming. They have absolutely no idea what's going on.
I like this trade for the Hawks. You know,
that pick is infinitely more valuable to the Atlanta Hawks than it is the San Antonio Spurs because, like you said, we aren't going to tank unless we have that pick. Yeah. So we're going to go and try to make the playoffs. And what do you get? You get a 16th pick, overall pick. Instead, you get DeJounte Murray for a couple of 16th overall picks. That's a pretty damn good deal. Now, in the Hawks thing, you tank if you trade away everyone. You get 2 lottery picks back. So it's obviously a great deal. It's actually one of those deals that looks ridiculously good for the Hawks and looks ridiculously good for the Spurs because depending on whether they can get those picks back, that's what the Hawks are going to do. Like they're going to go, they can easily make the playoffs. And listen, I would go to them and almost threaten them. I'd be like, you know what? We are going to go all in as all in can possibly can, or we're going to tank this thing if you don't give us our first round picks. And
Popovich looks there, goes, okay, go ahead. I've got my generational Victor Wembanyama sitting over here. I don't need you. I think DeJounte they don't need him. The Hawks need the Spurs more than the Spurs need the Hawks.
For sure. But DeJounte Murray is a fantastic piece for that Spurs team. Like they need a point guard very bad. It's hard to get a really good point guard like that. They're not just coming available left and right. If you don't like Trae Young, that's fair. But he's on a great contract. Mm-hmm. He's under contract for several years. You have a relationship there. He's committed defensively. He's two-way, so he kind of fits that Spurs mold. I think
they drafted him and molded him into the player that he is.
Yeah, and I think they would like to have DeJounte Murray back. Now, I'm obviously the false threats might not work with Popovich. I don't think
they would do the opposite.
But I do think I think there is like a working relationship potentially there because it mutually benefits both sides.
This is a Game of Thrones. Popovich is just sitting back on his throne, like, come here, peasants, come give me your trade offer, and then I'll see if it benefits me.
You know what's disgusting?
And you don't want to be in a position where you're at somebody else's will. When the Spurs control the Hawks' future in this scenario where we're trying to rebuild. And I think that, keeping one of Trae and DeJounte Murray feels necessary. And you're just going to have to, what's worse is the Trae trade will come before the DeJounte Murray trade in this hypothetical scenario. That's going to make it even harder to get your first round picks back. Even harder.
I don't think it'll make it even harder. But I hate this Popovich is on his Game of Thrones thing. It's great for him that he gets a generational talent in 3 straight
every
cycles
decade.
Of a draft.
He just
gets David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, he's really the GOAT. Give me a break, man. The guy has gotten luckier than any coach ever. Now he's a great coach, but he's sitting in this advantageous position for no reason other than the fact that he got lucky.